Check. All right, everyone, if you'll take your seats, please, we'll start our meditation and memorial service now. And we're going to start with a song from Eddie. So if everyone will sit down, please. Eddie.
Check 1, 2. Just as the sun gives its nourishing light to bring forth the flowers to summer's delight, as time and forgiveness heals all wounds, it's true. So to begin again, making all things new. As summer gives way to the colors of fall, and autumn surrenders to winter's call, as the earth she embraces the seed of the fruit and knows just what to do, making all things new. Making all things new, making all things new, for me and for you, making all things new. Making all things new, making all things new, for me and for you, making all things new. As our loved ones move on and are laid to rest, in our hearts they'll remain and live on as we bless the woman with child soon this world born into. Oh, great things they may do as the promise comes true. For me and for you, making all things new. Making all things new, making all things new, for me and for you, making all things new. Making all things new, making all things new, for me and for you, making all things new.
Thank you, Eddie. And to get the service going, I'm going to have Richard Austin come up and do an opening treatment for us. Richard?
Thank you. So notice that at this time, as we come together in love and in harmony to recognize those that have left us through COVID or during this time. We come here to know the blessings of each and every one. We know that divine spirit lived amongst each and every one of these people. It lives within all the family members, all the friends, all the relatives. And we know who come here to honor all of these spirits, all of this divine flow that touched each and every one of us and so much more beyond. We see that individual divine spirit in each one. We can think of an individual that would then spread throughout the world, having touched so many beyond our thought. But we can bring it home if we've had this experience within our own family, within our own friendships, and if not, know the experience of losing a loved one. We recognize the tears that have been shed by many people. And we allow ourselves this opportunity to know that these tears have mourned those loved ones. And we take a moment now to reflect, to recognize and honor these tears, but also to recognize the love, the attention and focus of the divine spirit in each one. We can take a moment and see the divine spirit in this process. We can see the uplifting of each spirit into a new, and recognizing with time the memory and the love of experiencing these people in our lives, knowing they've had such impact and what they've brought to this world. Again, we honor each and every individual in our way in this time. We see they've been called home to the divine presence, into the divine mind, and into the universe. We take a breath and a moment now to feel these souls releasing and letting go and becoming a part of the divine universe. And though saddened to see this is the process in which it went, we know that because of the divine connection, that life does not end, but spirit continues to grow and go beyond. That these tears of sadness, now through reflection, represent a joy greater than we can imagine as they continue their journey to the next realm, knowing that they have been blessed in so many ways and that they now become renewed. They go forward into a divine mind that is wonderful and joyous, that touches those that have been left behind and delivers joy through the agony and continues to uplift us with all that they represent, with all that they have come forth, and all the blessings that I have bestowed in this world. And we give thanks. Thanks for each and every one. Thanks for how they have affected us and in this world, and how they have left an impression upon us to allow us also to grow in spirit and to honor each individual in a special way. And I release this treatment to do its good and powerful work, knowing that we are reflective and touch base and honor many souls at this time and going forward. And together we say, and so it is.
Thank you, Richard. So we've lit 60 candles for the 600,000 people who have died in COVID. And also we wanted to take time to, because I think one of the worst problems that we had during this epidemic is that we couldn't come together and we couldn't mourn. And we had many people who made their transition during this period, and we want to honor them as well. I knew them all. I was close to them all. They were really great personal friends to me, and I feel each of their departures keenly. Dolores Ellison, she did make her transition with COVID, and she was as close a friend to me as I could have. She is a lovely person, very dynamic. There was not a child or animal that ever was in her midst that not immediately fall in love with her. She was an educator who sought to improve the lives of kids, and she was a dynamic person. Midway in her life, she decided she wanted a big change, and so she had always lived in Florida, and she decided that she would go and live in downtown Chicago. And she lived in the iconic apartment building in Chicago. And she broke out and had a new life and then moved back here and created more life. She was our leader of our youth program for many years, and she was a dear and lovely person. Judy James didn't die of COVID, but she did transition. And anybody who knew Judy knew she was a wonderful powerhouse. What a powerhouse. What you may not have known about Judy is that she grew up in the Depression, and her family would often have to give her over to foster care. So she was in, I think, probably like 16 foster care homes by the time she became an adult. Fortunately, one of her parents recognized her intelligence and pushed her on to get further education. So she went to Wake Forest University with only 2 dresses. And she said that most of the people there were wealthy, and so the girls who weren't so wealthy would pool their dresses together so that they didn't seem like they were all wearing the same thing. She went on to marry a lawyer, and she became a powerhouse couple in South Florida. But after over 40 years of marriage, she thought that there was something better for herself, and she left out in a Winnebago. And she went and she created a new life for herself, and she became a practitioner here. She was a writer. She was a poet. She made a huge mark in life for good and joy and love and happiness. One of her wonderful poems, I wished I had time to pull up and read. It was where she would go through her family members, and she would say, "I wish I had loved you better." And she would talk about her mom, her dad, her husband, her children. And I hope she knows that the love she did give was good and powerful and changed a lot of wonderful lives. Our own dear Claire Beaumont. Claire was just a lovely angel. She radiated love everywhere she went. She had a very dynamic life. One of her husbands, she had several of them. One of them was a press agent for Lucille Ball. So she was with Hollywood. She was quite the looker. She was a model in her early life. And then into her 80s, she decided that she would become a practitioner. As she made her transition, I was very close to Claire. At one point, Claire started making bargains between God, and I was included in the bargains. Somehow, pints of ice cream from Culver's got involved in this bargain, and I was bringing pints of ice cream to her in hospice, and she would eat the whole pint right in front of me. It was amazing. She just radiated love. And then, of course, there was my lovely friend, Dolph Kaiser. Oh, what a rascal Dolph was. The thing I loved and adored about Dolph is he brought fun to his spirituality. He had fun with it. He had traveled the world on a sailboat. He said one time he had a mystical experience out in a star-filled night where all of a sudden he became one with the whole world. He like I said, he did bring fun to his spirituality. One time in class, we were doing projects, and he brought in all these dead things he had found in the forest, in the woods, and to give everybody one. And then he somehow wound it all up, and it was just amazing. It was like he brought dead branches in and made a very powerful spiritual statement, and he had fun doing it. And that was a wonderful thing for him to remind me that God is here to have a good time. So they were all my dear friends, and I'm grateful that they were in my life. And I know that they're now off living the life of spirit and having even more wonderful adventures. And I know they're there for me, and they're there for the center and for all of us. And they're an example for us that to live courageously, to be willing to, when things aren't working out, to take a Winnebago and go create a new life. Or even at a late point of life, to still have a thirst for hunger, learning and become a practitioner, and to have fun, to enjoy life and not be afraid. So I'm grateful for each and every one of them. They made my life better for having been in it, and I loved them all. And I know that one day I will see them all once again, and I can still feel their love, and I'm grateful for that. Now we're going to have a meditation. Jim, would you like to come up and lead us in meditation?
My guess is that most of us have known someone we loved or respected depart this world this past year or so. So what I would recommend in the meditation is that you see them in a joyful way, going on their new path. One thing I'm totally sure of is that there is life after this physical life. And so see them traveling down into a new world, a new path, and a new joys, finding new loves, all these things. Anytime that I try to cope with some challenges in life, I find it so much better to go into a meditation and cope with it there. So join me with that now. Close your eyes if you choose. And find your breath. And just be with it for a while in silence. And after a while, you can begin to feel an energy to the silence, a divinely inspired energy. So feel that. And then as people come to your mind, it doesn't have to be within the last year, but people that you have loved that have gone on, think of them. Maybe talk with them. Remember the joy of being with them. We don't need to focus solely on the loss. We can remember all the good times, the time that they gave us great wisdom, maybe the time they laughed at us and our antics. These people are still with us in memory and in our hearts. And one very special person told me, when it's your turn, don't be afraid. She said she'd seen the other side and it was filled with love and light. So when it's my turn, don't be afraid. She said she would let me know, if she could, that she was safe after she made her transition. And she did. Now I get to tell you, when it's your turn, don't be afraid. There are many on the other side who love you and will guide you. And at the very instant when this life ends, your eternal life is verified. So don't be afraid. I give thanks for this time together. And I can release this meditation to ease our sorrow, to ease our pain, and to give us a new joy. And I can release this meditation to become so simply by saying, and so it is.
Thank you, Jim. Eddie, could you play another song for us, please? And now Pat Conover is going to come up and read a poem for us. Pat?
When Great Trees Fall by Maya Angelou. When great trees fall, rocks on distant hills shudder. Lions hunker down in tall grasses, and even elephants lumber after safety. When great trees fall in forests, small things recoil into silence, their senses eroded beyond fear. When great souls die, the air around us becomes light, rare, sterile. We breathe briefly. Our eyes briefly see with a hurtful clarity. Our memory, suddenly sharpened, examines. Pause on kind words unsaid, promised walks never taken. Great souls die, and our reality, bound to them, takes leave of us. Our souls, dependent upon their nurture, now shrink, wizened. Our minds, formed and informed by their radiance, fall away. We are not so much maddened as reduced to the unutterable ignorance of dark, cold caves. And when great souls die, after a period, peace blooms, slowly and always irregularly. Spaces fill with a kind of soothing electric vibration. Our senses, restored, never to be the same, whisper to us, they existed. They existed. We can be and be better, for they existed.
Thank you, Pat. So I'm going to do a closing affirmative prayer, and I hope you take the hope of the service and the hope of the people I mentioned, how they were able to go through life and take their courage and to use that courage to go out and live the best life you can, because that's what we're here to do, and that's how we honor them. We don't honor them with our depression. We honor them with our conviction that we're a part of wonderful life and we can bring about a greater life. So just join with me now in this affirmative prayer and just know this truth with me. I know that God is, and this power is present here in my life, and this power is forever evolving, and I'm one with this great power, and I will always be evolving to know something greater for myself. I was very grateful and very, very special to be able to attract these lovely souls into my life that left us this past year. I'm grateful for their wisdom, their joy, their friendship, their kindness. And I know that their love is still with me. And I know that one day when I leave off this cloak of dust I wear and step into my spiritual self, that they will be there with me just as I know them. Solid stone is but sand and water and a million years gone by, and their love and God's love will sustain me through a million years, and even the solid stone of death will not prevail. I know God's love sustains me, and I know that their love for me, my love for them, was God being made manifest in my life, and that love will carry me on. This is my truth. I celebrate this right knowing, and I release this prayer into the mind of God to do its good and perfect, bold and dynamic work, returning to me multiplied abundantly. And together we say, and so it is. Thank you all. Many blessings. God bless.